Hello, community. This is Shonda Smith-Baker from Conversations with Shonda. Today's conversation is a bit of a part two. It is a conversation with my son, Malik Rucker, and the incredible work that he is leading at V3 Sports. Check out the first episode, go back, follow Conversations with Shonda, look up Malik Rucker, and you will hear more about his upbringing, our relationship, and some other really good nuggets of wisdom that he's offered us about how to engage young people in community.
You're listening to Conversations with Shonda, a podcast that unpacks the community's grittiest, most vexing problems, hosted by Shonda Smith-Baker.
This episode is sponsored by the Black Collective Foundation, a philanthropic movement advancing the genius of Black-led change. The Black Collective Foundation is Minnesota's first Black community foundation working to create a thriving ecosystem of Black-led change. Together, they are advancing the genius of Black-led change and building a community where all Black people are holistically well and living in dignity and prosperity. To learn more, go to minnesotablackcollectivefoundation.org. So I'm back on Conversations with Shonda, having this conversation with my son, Malik. Malik was featured on an earlier podcast episode, and I wanted to provide an update to you, community, on what he has been up to and the work that he's leading in North Minneapolis. So Malik, welcome back to Conversations with Shonda.
Happy to be here.
When you were on the conversation before, we dived a little bit more into our relationship, our upbringing, our commitment to North Minneapolis, and what we saw in terms of the opportunities that exist here and the assets that exist here. In this conversation, I would like to spend a little bit more time talking about the work that you're leading at V3 Sports. Mm-hmm. And so if you wouldn't mind just providing an introduction of who you are and what you're doing, and then we'll dive a little bit more into what V3 is.
Yeah, my name is Malik Rucker. I serve as the executive director for V3 Sports. I am one of Northside's sons, Shonda's son, Charles' son, and always growing up, always used the programming and the resources that North Minneapolis has provided to me and my family, which allowed me to then go on to receive a full ride scholarship to University of Iowa, and then eventually graduating from Western Michigan University with a sport management degree. And then coming back to Minneapolis to utilize the talents and skills that I gained through that process. So today I serve as the exec director of V3. What V3 is we're a nonprofit located right in North Minneapolis on Plymouth and Lindale. And our mission is to elevate our community through wellness, fitness, and education. And if you don't know, we're doing that through 40,000 square foot build, which is our first phase of a two-phase project. So 40,000 first phase. We got another 200 coming for the second phase. And it's all about creating an environment for family to be active, to be healthy, to have a nutritious meal, to get educated, to learn water instruction, to play sports. Really a community hub right in our own community. We'll host our own tournaments. We'll host our own galas. We'll host our own weddings and everything right in our own community instead of having to leave outside of our community for that type of amenity.
Because we have listeners really all over the world, could you provide just a description of North Minneapolis?
A description? That's a tough one. I say North Minneapolis is a great place that has history and tradition and a lot of staple people and families that's come together to create a quality neighborhood in place in Minneapolis. It's historically a Black community, and it's made of love and opportunity and greatness. And there's tons of potential that we've yet to reach. But our elders and ancestors have laid a great foundation for us to be able to continue to build.
So where V3 is on that corridor, there's many corridors that look like that in communities that haven't had the same development investment. Can you just sort of describe what that corridor looks like and what you maybe are envisioning that it will look like with V3 as a catalyst?
It's really industrial. Across the street, we have Lynn Park neighborhood. Behind us, we have Heritage Park neighborhood, two neighborhoods that have very different needs. Across the street from us, we have Comcast, we have Walmart Optical, and if you don't know Walmart Optical, they're a med device company sitting right in North Minneapolis. Nobody knows it. And then across the street, we have Twin Cities Rise. We have Minneapolis Public Schools Nutrition Center. Go down a little bit further, you have the Northside Child Care Development Center and the DMV, right? So it's very much a commercial corridor, but there's not a lot of activity. V3 was an old warehouse. We used to be a book bindery. As we continue to go through our construction, we heard that Comcast is moving their staff from St. Paul into North Minneapolis, which is a big commitment from a corporation of that size. So what I hope to see in this corridor is a place where we can have meals, we can play, we can work hard, we can play hard, and we can live, right? There's already neighborhoods, there's already people living, but there's not many places to sit down and have a meal. There's not a lot of places to go get on a treadmill or to squat or play pick up basketball game. So really just wanting to create a space where community can work hard, play hard, and live.
One of the other things that I think is notable about what you and the V3 team is doing is that it is also a place for whole families. Can you talk about the value of having places and spaces in community for whole families and multi-generational efforts to happen?
Yeah, in today's world, we're going through a challenge of passing down stories, passing down connections, passing down family connections. And it's hard to put one reason on why that's happening, but what V3 is going to allow is those stories to be transferred from generation to generation to generation, right? I also really believe in social capital. I think that the neighborhood of Lynn Park can be an asset to Heritage Park neighborhood and the children, the 500 children that live in Heritage Park neighborhood. It only takes one connection, right? It takes one connection that you see yourself and now you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or an entrepreneur or whatever it may be. And that one connection will introduce you to one person and then one person. And now you change your whole family's dynamic off of a connection that you could possibly make at V3. So I'm really excited about the opportunity for economic mobility and to build social capital at V3 and to connect communities. And through that, it's generations. It's a place for the full family, right? We'll have grandma upstairs on the fitness floor, and then we'll have our teenagers in our out of school time spaces doing technology, playing Xbox, whatever it may be. And then we'll have babies as little as 6 weeks in our drop-in childcare. And when you leave, you'll be able to take a meal with you. So it's one of those places where you get a bunch of things for the full family. And I'm excited to see how everybody connects and builds community.
Just to sort of get down to what's included, sort of core to the V3 vision has been the Olympic-sized swimming pool that will be located there. The facility will offer so much more, but that's really what many people have known it to be. So can we just touch a little bit on why swimming, why there, why Olympic-sized pool?
Yeah, well, the North Minneapolis community doesn't have many public pools, which means that we're not learning to swim, which means disparities. That is where we kind of started out. And we know that we have two programs, a swim to learn program and a swim to earn. So being able to teach through aquatics of how can you make money through it? How can you feel comfortable when you go out to Lake Minnetonka and not have to just be scared on the boat and to be able to be present and enjoy yourself around water? So water safety is a huge thing. And then we acquired the pool for the USA Olympic swim trials in 2021. And that was important to us because it exemplifies excellence, right? It's the best of the best that has swim in that pool. And in our community now, it has one of the best pools in the world. So it's one of the best facilities and the best pools in the world right in our own neighborhood. And it's also one of 350 meters in the state of Minnesota that you can compete in. One or two in the metro, the other is at the University of Minnesota, and then the third is at in Rochester. So that makes us a regional destination. So we'll have people from outside of the county coming to North Minneapolis and then spending money with our businesses. And we also have 4 multi-use courts, which we'll be able to do a basketball, do some volleyball. We'll be able to host pretty much anything in that facility. And then we have a bunch of different event spaces. So it makes us a regional attraction in North Minneapolis versus having to go to Hopkins for a basketball tournament or having to go to Menominee, Wisconsin, right? We'll be able to do that right in our own neighborhood with beautiful views too.
Tell me, for your perspective, why is being able to do things in your neighborhood important? And I raise this because often communities, urban communities, Black communities, communities of color often don't get the same level of investments, or their facilities may not look the same. And so for those listening that are thinking about doing development, they sometimes will look at numbers, or they'll look at data, or they'll look at the narrative of the place, and maybe they might think that it's not worth the investment. But can you just color in a little bit on why is having a place of excellence so important to everybody, not just the people that live there, but specifically the people that live there?
Because we deserve it. I mean, we've had so many years of underinvestment and disinvestment that it's come to this, that we have to create, and we're creating our own. And nobody's gonna come save us, and nobody's gonna come do it. So we're having to do it on our own, and to be able to have the resources and the talent and the skills to get it done is a credit to, like I said, our elders and the people that's come before us to be able to provide this type of position in our own community. Second, I would say it's an access thing, right? We have so many talented people. I mean, you think of AAU basketball. When we go to Eden Prairie, our teams are the best teams. They want to play our teams. We have the best and most talented kids. And because of that, we having to go to them. Imagine if we get home court advantage, how much better we could be, right? So just having the access to be able to walk, to be able to ride the bus, to be able to feel ownership over a space that's in your neighborhood is very inspirational, and it means a lot to families. And you'll be surprised how many parents have not seen their kids play a sport because of transportation, right? But what if you can catch the bus down to your kid's basketball game, or walk across the street to your kid's basketball game? So it's really the access of accessibility for not only participants, but the family. We talk about the family again. We talk about grandma. We talk about grandpa, that they just don't have the capacity to make it to Menominee, Wisconsin. But they can make it down to V3, which is blocks away from their household.
I know that you have shared in the other episode that we did, and again, I encourage people to go listen to that, but what is the swimming disparity? What is the disparity for folks in neighborhoods? Could you share that?
Yeah, I know that in Minnesota, it's a 64% chance, higher chance that Black folks will drown compared to white counterparts. So it's a big disparity. There's a bunch of disparities going on in Minnesota. I might have misquoted that, so don't quote me on that. I know it's something around 64%. It might actually be 64% of community isn't swimming. So it's one of the two. The other stat that I do know is that if parents don't know how to swim, there's only a 19% chance that the child will know how to swim or get to or learn to swim. So it's a generational thing.
Mm-hmm. So you're building this facility. You talked about the phase one. What are the phases? What is the total amount of that you need to raise? Like, what can you give us a little bit of the scope?
So phase one is 40,000 square feet. it was about a $23 million bill. And then phase two is about 200,000 square feet. So a much bigger scale, which has about an $80 million price tag. So all in all, we're looking, including operational raise in the construction raise, we're looking at about $120 million investment into North Minneapolis community. The second phase includes underground parking and includes 4 multi-use courts, community and event spaces. It includes the 50-meter pool with 1,000 spectator seats around it. It includes additional fitness spaces, additional admin, and just a bunch of different community spaces. That's phase two. Phase one includes a 25-yard instructional pool. It includes a therapy pool, one of the only ones in North Minneapolis. It also includes a restaurant, a full fitness floor, and then additional community spaces and admin spaces as well. So we'll have drop-in childcare in the first phase, and we'll also be a Boys and Girls Club location teaching STEAM education and experiential learning.
That's fantastic. So who are you raising money from?
So our first phase, we were able to break ground and build debt-free. And we were able to do that through philanthropy and grants. And we also were able to get a loan from the city of Minneapolis. And so primarily it's been through individuals and institutions. The city of Minneapolis came through, and so did a form of financing called New Market Tax Credits. We were able to secure allocation through Sunrise Bank.
In the state?
So the state of Minnesota has committed to our second phase.
Okay.
So we have 15 million from the state of Minnesota committed to the second phase and closing out the V3 Center build.
One of the things that I've been really impressed in is the way that you all have engaged community throughout this first phase, and how you have had a series of events and opportunities for people to get connected to V3. Can you share why that's been important and what has been the feedback from that strategy?
Yeah, we're looking at V3 in a little bit of a different way, and looking at it in a collaborative way, and empowering community to have ownership and feel ownership of the space. So I think about when, it was a couple years ago, when we were in the design phase, we had 10 youth go through a design charrette, and they designed the entire plaza. So they designed the plaza, they picked the furniture. They also designed the Boys and Girls Club out of school time space and the drop-in childcare. So to be able to tap into our young folks and for them to be able to see their ideas and thoughts come into fruition is something that I'm excited to see. That's one way that we've engaged community, but the big piece is building something that the community can see as an asset and that's productive and is comfortable, and it's our space.
Mm-hmm. When you say young people that help design it, what do you mean by young? Like, are we talking high school? Like what?
I'm talking from 6th grade till about 10th grade. So 6th to 10th graders.
Yeah, because you're from the community, and I've done a lot of work here, but I've always been delighted to hear things different than what I expected to hear when I engage around that. Like, did they come up with stuff and you're like, wow, like I never thought I would hear that, or I didn't expect that. Like,
yeah, one of the big architectural features that they provided, the input that they provided was, they said, how can we bring what's inside outside? So they decided to, because of the Olympic trials pool, they decided to put lane lines, track lane lines. So it looks, the architecture on the plaza will look like a curve on a track, right? And then there's a podium. So there's a first, second, third place podium that they said, we need a place where people can can come here, they can take pictures, and then they'll post it. And they placed it in such a way that it catches the downtown views as well. So there's a podium with the downtown views, and they did that in partnership with our architect firm LSC in Keon Blossomgame. So I give a lot of credit to LSC and Keon for being able to extract these ideas and to be able to actually include them in the design.
Mm-hmm. Did the reason why I think that is important is because often people come into community and begin to develop, or when you're from a community, you might make assumptions about what the needs are. Or I tell people I'm from the neighborhood. I still ask all the time what people need, what they're feeling, what they're seeing on an ongoing basis. And I think the importance of being in relationship is really what you're talking about with community, actually helps improve what it is you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I would say, in my experience, there's different needs. Like I said, I spoke to a little bit earlier. I believe that the Heritage Park neighborhood has different needs than the Lynn Park neighborhood, both Northside communities. And to be engaged and to be able to listen and to utilize the inputs from differing needs is also it's a challenge, but it's good to know that both communities are engaged in the different levels of community out there. And what we found is we need to meet people where they are and get outside, really. And we show up, you'll see us at all of the tabling events and getting input and letting people know what's going on and updating on the progress. And we've been actively doing swim lessons and swim programming at Franklin Middle School. We've also done a lot of swim clinics at Franklin Middle School as well. We had an event with Speedo a couple of months ago, actually, at Franklin, and we brought in Cullen Jones, who is a Black swimmer and world record holder, and won gold with Michael Phelps, and one of the best African American swimmers out there, and one of the best swimmers ever in this world. So to be able to have that level of excellence and commitment is great.
So I know obviously a lot about your story, but if we back into the kids that are growing up, like what is your hope for how they see that space?
I hope they feel ownership of it. I hope they feel that this is a place that they can come and be themselves. It is a place that after I get done doing what I'm doing, I can go home to whatever I'm going to. So to be able to create a safe space and a place where they can just be themselves and get away from all of the outside noise and whatever and all the challenges that are going on in life. Everybody experiences different challenges, but if V3 can be that place where you know that you're gonna have a good time, you know you're gonna run into your friends, you know that there's gonna be caring and thoughtful adults around, and you know that you're gonna have that village. So a place of safety, support, and fun and ownership is what I hope that the youth gain from that, and I hope they gain a ton of skills. Right, I hope they gain a ton of skills to then be able to go to do whatever they want to do, whether it be the NBA, whether it be a scientist, whether they want to be a chemist, whatever it is. I hope they are able to channel their curiosity and to be able to engage in different activities that feeds into that curiosity and allows them to then go off and do great things and then come back to Minneapolis, hopefully the North Side, to continue the development of North Minneapolis.
What do you see as the value of sports for young people? Often there's this thing like you need to be a student athlete, agreed, but people will sometimes do it as a either or versus a both and in terms of how they will frame it. And so from your vantage point, both as an athlete and now someone who is creating opportunities for others, how would you sort of articulate the advantages of being engaged in sport?
Yeah, I was probably one of those athletes that the athlete definitely came before a student. But that's how it is sometimes. And I was able to graduate. I got my MBA, so it worked out for me. But I think just the advantages of sport, whether you're good or not, you get to learn discipline, commitment. You learn how to lose. You learn how to win. You understand how to work within teams or by yourself. You get to understand and carve out what is my role to reach this ultimate goal. Right? Things aren't going to go your way, and that's how life is. And I think there's also a level of dedication that you have to your craft and to be able to say, okay, I'm good at this. I need to get better at that and to capitalize on your strengths. One of the things that I also learned from my experience playing sports is it keeps you even keel, right? It keeps you on your toes and wanting to get better. So knowing that I might have made a good play, but coach is going to say, but I didn't do that right. And I didn't do that right. And I didn't do that right. I know some parts of life that's not going to be great. That's not a great mindset. But for our kids to learn that, you can always do better and commit to bettering yourself is a good skill to have. I also think the friendships, right? Some of my best friends that I've had came from playing for the Police Activities Leagues or the Minneapolis Hustlers. And that was 15 years ago, right? I have 15-year friendships off the sport teams that I played on. And it's great to have a community of people and friends that you get to grow up with and do life with. So I think there's a lot of advantages to playing sports. I think there's a lot of advantages to arts and education as well in those fields. So I think, and then there's a thing of I can actually go out here and make money doing this thing that I love. So it's also a thing that takes families to a different level from a socioeconomic standpoint. And there's a commitment level that you have to get to that point. So if you're a JV basketball player or you make it all the way to the Olympics, I think there's lessons in all of it.
Yeah, when you talked earlier about swim to learn or swim to earn, what is swim to earn? What does that mean?
So swim to earn is one of those things where it's kind of like sports, right? If you don't know about the opportunity to make money within sports, you're not going to go do it, right? It's the exposure piece.
Do you mean outside of being the athlete? Do you
exactly.
mean the sport?
Exactly. So a lot of times we think we got to be the person on the field as a player, or we might even say we could be a coach or an agent, but we don't think about all of the business that happens to get a game done, right? To when we walk into US Bank Stadium and the Vikings are playing, somebody made that deal to name it US Bank Stadium, right? And that's a very lucrative deal. And it's the same type of model. So swim to earn is teaching folks different ways to earn money through aquatics. So I think of lifeguards. I think of water instructors. I also think of chemists. How are we balancing the water? I also think of engineers. Who is making the pools, right? Who is engineering our filtration? So there's officials, there's content creators, there's all of these different opportunities to learn through swimming the ability to earn money.
You said at the opening that you're the executive director of V3. What has been your path that has gotten you to that role? Because you're young-ish.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting older.
I'm getting older.
You're getting older, but you're young, right? Yeah. And you've come from this historic neighborhood, which has lots of assets, but people often underestimate the potential. And so here you are from here, but what has been your path and your lessons that you've learned as you've grown into your leadership?
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier in the conversation. I grew up utilizing the resources of North Minneapolis. I played for the Police Activities League. I played for the Minneapolis Hustlers. I ran track for the Hospitality House. I was a kid at Oak Park Neighborhood Center. I went to Harvest Prep. I went to Mary T. Welcome and Phyllis Wheatley. So all of these resources that we've had, and I think it was intentional on your parts as far as parents, but to be able to utilize that to have the skills to be able to go on to the University of Iowa on a full ride scholarship to play football to the Big Ten allowed me to learn even more. And a lot of my lessons came off the field, right? So being able to learn how to network, being able to deal with white people, being able to see and be on a team with people that come from all different types of walk of lives. And it all came together as I continued to grow throughout my career. So, also I went through hard times in my career where I was injured or I wasn't getting the playing time that I thought that I deserved. I went through a year where I had to sit out because I transferred. So going through those dark times and really having to buckle down and figure it out by myself, because I didn't have parents in Iowa. I didn't have, I had a couple people that maybe understood what I was going through, but for the most part, it was just getting through it. So I think those are also lessons that I've learned on the way to leadership. I think one of the biggest lessons also is that I went from the University of Iowa to Western Michigan University, very different traditions. And I don't know if we can say Western had traditions before PJ Fleck got there. But what I can say is that Iowa did. And they had Big Ten, and they had Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz and Bob Sanders and Sean Green and all of these great guys. And you got the Wave and 70,000 fans screaming every weekend. And with that, it comes you're going into a program that has tradition, that has all of the things in place really to be a great program. My freshman year at Iowa, we played Western Michigan. We beat them 55-0. They were 1-11 that year. And then 2 years later, I'm at Western Michigan. And Western had the biggest turnaround in college football history at the time, from 1-11 to 8-5. Then there was another 8-5 year. And then there was a 13-0 year, right? MAC champions. Brought the city out, fans. We got a lot of different pride, tradition, a level of excellence. So I've learned to be able to build. I learned to be able to fit into a culture of tradition and excellence. And I think that's a great lesson. Upon graduation, I had no idea what to do. So now I go from being 22, 23 years old, playing sports and going to school since I was 5 years old, to doing neither one of them, right? Which creates a identity crisis. You don't know who you are. I'm not in Michigan or Iowa anymore. First time being back home in 5 years living. At my mom's house, like trying to figure it out.
That was a challenging period. No, I'm just kidding.
But I'm grateful because everybody doesn't have that ability to go to their mom's house after they get through that. So, and then you also got the pressures of people saying, okay, I thought you was going to the league. I thought I was going to the league too, right? It didn't work out for me like that. But those are also lessons that I had to figure it out. And I had to grow, and I networked like crazy. And I ended up going to work for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I was just doing a job that didn't capitalize on my skills and my expertise. And I wasn't feeling fulfilled throughout the day. I knew it was something that I wouldn't be able to do for too long. And being able to identify that and say, what is my passion? What am I passionate about? Where could I go and work every day? And it came back to sport. There's not really too many days in sport where it's the same. You kind of really don't know what you're going to get yourself into some days. And with that, I felt relieved to find something that I was happy to do again. But I saw the opportunity and the potential that sports can have on your career. I see, the Kevin Warrens of the world, who was the highest ranking executive in the NFL at the time, and now is the president of the Bears and was the Big Ten commissioner. So I see somebody like him, looks like me, has a similar background as me, be able to have some success in sports. And that also was a big driving factor for myself. So one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn through that time was some of your best steps are backwards.
Mm.
I went from being a coordinator at Big Brothers Big Sisters to taking an internship at the Minnesota Twins. And I also started to go to school to get my MBA from the University of North Texas. And with that, I said that to say you go from a coordinator to an intern, which means you're taking a big step back from not only pay, but how you're looked at in the organization. And, you kind of got to put all that to the side for the greater goal, which is another lesson of keeping the end in mind. But during this time, I definitely learned that some of your greatest steps will be backwards to catapult yourself forward. So just that grind, that journey, to be able to build relationships. I think another lesson out there is that a lot of people talk about it's who you know, it's who you know, it's who you know. And I don't agree with that. It's a lot of people that are known that don't get opportunity. And I say, I try to tell people, especially if I'm talking to a younger professional, it's about who knows you. When they're in that room, when there's an opportunity comes up, do they think about you? You might know them, but if they don't think about you and they don't know you and your work and what your reputation is, you're not going to get that opportunity. So make sure people know who you are.
So there's a lot of people that is particularly following 2020. So you've touched on a couple of things that I know that I hear regularly, really across the country, of people that, one, are trying to tap in more to what they love, really perhaps what their purpose is. And in some cases, it might require you to take a pause, to take a step back, to think differently about how you do that work. So, you did, certainly you talked through some of it, but, this is an individual move, right? This is stuff that you have to wrestle down yourself. You can process it with people, but really this is you versus you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so would the advice be just to take the leap, or what would you say to people that might be in a position of, I need to think differently about my work?
Well, I think to start out, people, a lot of times the advice would be to follow your purpose, right? But everybody doesn't know that. It doesn't always come to people naturally. Some people have a grasp on what their purpose is automatically. But just because you don't know your purpose doesn't mean that you shouldn't move. So I'd encourage and advise folks to follow their curiosity and see where it takes you. Curiosity, you might not ever have a straight up purpose, but you know what you're curious about and you know what you like. So I would encourage people to follow what their curiosity is.
You recently got recognized at the soccer game, at the football game. Can you say what that was and what that meant for you at this stage of your career?
Yeah, I got recognized, and it was a special day because I had no idea that was happening. And all my family was there, and I want to shout out Erica for facilitating this and making it happen. The Minnesota United recognized me with their Star of the North recognition and award during a Minnesota United FC soccer game, and it does feel good to be recognized by your people. Right. Yeah, I know it's a award that they select folks, but to be able to get recognized for the work that you're doing and to be able to get that in front of 20,000 people, but most importantly, my family, was just an amazing feeling. I was back on the field. Like it felt like I was at I was back on the field. I felt like I was at my own football game, getting ready to perform. And it's just a blessing to be able to get recognized by the folks that know the work that you've been putting in and can acknowledge that, like, we see you, and it feels good coming from your people. And I'm grateful to Minnesota United. I'm grateful to Erica, and I'm grateful to everybody that played a role in making it happen, because I had no idea I was being recognized for it until I literally walked on the field. So it's something that it's a memory that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life, and I'm going to share that with my kids and grandkids one day, because it was just an award that I had no idea about. It felt good to be recognized in front of a ton of folks, but by the people that are being impacted by the work that I do every day.
For you, early career, but certainly not to diminish the impact that you've had. But you've had a number of people that have supported you. You've just mentioned a few.
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there that need support. There's people out there that want to give support. What if someone is looking to say, look, I see someone who I think has a lot of talent and I want to support them. What would you advise or recommend?
I would advise them to take action. But I also think it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So not only will you be supporting, but I'm sure there will be support that comes from that person that you see as a talented individual. So take action. Bring them to coffee. Bring that person to happy hour, or show them your office space. Take them on a day in your life. I really think just taking the time with somebody that is interested in it and committed to the relationship could be very fruitful for both parties. And we need support. There's we all know this is a relational, business is relational, and if you don't have those relationships, it's going to be very hard to be successful in business. And because of that, if you have the means, you have the network, don't be a gatekeeper. Put people on. It's enough out here for everybody to eat, and it's enough opportunity. And who knows, you might get an opportunity created off of you giving back. So I encourage professionals of all experiences to seek out relationships as well. I think that there's also an advantage to more seasoned executives and people that's been working for 30 years to have a relationship with somebody fresh out of college that has very different ideals than them and can keep them on their toes and challenge their perspectives. So I think it's a mutually beneficial thing, and people need to seek it out from both ways.
You have developed and gained sort of a reputation or a brand, if you will, for showing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Showing up, not being in relationships that are transactional, but really building relationships. You know, for those that are at home thinking, man, I really need to get more network. Like, what have been the benefits of you just showing up?
Really, I could say when I got my internship, I didn't apply to the Twins. I had networked the sport industry like crazy, and I showed up to coffee, and I followed up, and I kept bugging them, and I randomly text them or called them, and wanted to continue to develop those relationships. So when I got invited somewhere, I showed up. I was myself. I always showed up as myself. I've never been anywhere that I haven't been myself, which I think helps me out. But I also know it comes a little bit more naturally to me than most. And you just kind of got to get out your comfort zone and figure out what are those questions that you want to get answered, and to be able to figure out what value that you have. So figure out what value that you bring to others as well is very helpful when you're networking, because people are very much so more inclined to have that meeting with you when they see that you can provide value to their life and what they have going on as well. So
Can you articulate what the value is that you bring?
Yeah, I think they see it. They know that they know that I'm on the rise. They know that I'm committed. They know that I can speak languages that they can't, whether it be like me and you. I speak languages that you can't, and you speak languages that I can't, right? Um, I also come educated. I come with a network as well, and I'm actually on the ground. So I think people feel that I provide that value as well of being on the ground, and they know that I'm going to return the favor. I always in conversations with how can I help? How can I help you? What do you have going on? I know we talked a lot about me, but what how can I help what you got going on? Whether it be volunteering when I was young, I still volunteer, but when I was younger in my career, it was a lot of volunteering. It was maybe making a call. It could be, running something across town, whatever it may be. There's somebody that you can ask. You just got to ask people how can they help. And sometimes people will say they weren't thinking it at all. They're gonna say, how could you help? And it gets back to that. It's about who knows you. So when there's an opportunity to help, they're going to call you because you offer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic. For just looping back to V3 as we close, one thing is if people wanted to learn more about what you've got going on at V3 Sport, where would they go?
Yeah, we're on all social medias. We're on Facebook, V3 Sports. We're on Instagram, V3_sports. We're on LinkedIn at V3 Sports. And then our website is v3sports.org. I really ain't hard to find. You can always find me on LinkedIn at Malik Rucker. And you can find them pretty much the rest of our team as well. So we're across social platforms, and we're also on our website at V3 Sports.
Okay. And then what is the open date for V3?
We don't have an exact open date, but it'll be spring 2024. We anticipate getting keys in February or March of 2024, and then we'll take some time to learn the building and train. And we'll have a lot of jobs and careers over at V3. So please stay tuned or hit me up if you are interested in all these different jobs that we'll have to support this facility and this development in the community. So be on the lookout for that.
And you still have some fundraising to go.
We have a ton of fundraising to go. So as I said, we raise funds for the first phase. The second phase really creates that regional attraction for V3, and it's a much bigger capital campaign. So we've actually raised about 58.1 million of our total raise of 125. So help us bridge that gap. You can always reach out to me, Malik at v3sports.org. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. We welcome donors and potential members of V3 to come over to the facility and get a tour, get you a hard hat. But we have a big raise to make, and Minnesota is very philanthropic, and we are a state that will come together. And I know to get V3 done, to get this investment done in North Minneapolis, this is an all hands on deck thing that we got to do. So.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that. I guess I do have one more question because you talk about it as a regional destination. So sometimes when things are in neighborhoods that people are less familiar with, they see that as a benefit only to that particular neighborhood. But you've described it as a regional destination. So how does it benefit the region?
It benefits the region because it's going to economically benefit the region, and we're going to not only have jobs and careers, which I just spoke about. We're going to have enrichment opportunities for our kids to go out and work for these companies and start their own businesses and be and contributing to the economy. Another thing is we're going to be having folks come in from outside of Hennepin County and spending money at our restaurants and spending money at our hotels, spending money at our gas stations and all of our businesses, which is money flowing into our community and into our region. And that's the benefit of having a regional destination, not only for the activities, but for the economic activity that comes from being able to have and host events and opportunities within this space. So we're doing that right in North Minneapolis. And sometimes you see a regional destination or a national or a state national destination as a stadium or arena, but we're kind of doing something in a similar lane around economic impact.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess the very last question is, when you talked about the kids designing the podium that has the backdrop of downtown, like, you know, from a picture point of view, I get like it's a great photo, but like symbolically, what does it mean for people to stand there with the backdrop of downtown?
I think it's just it's a cool skyline, especially when at night. But I also think that downtown can see us.
Mm.
For having me, it was great.
To explore more insightful conversations and stay updated on Shonda Smith Baker's work, visit our new website at smithbaker.co. That's smithbaker.co.